It's a case that started in Boone County.
A very, very traumatic situation, not only for the family, friends, and the neighbors, but the first responders who were there as well.
And it gained statewide attention.
We'll get to the bottom of it, and if there's bad actors amongst our people and everything, we'll deal with it.
Kyneddi Miller was found dead on this day last year. Deputies said she was found in the bathroom of her home in the Morrisvale area, emaciated to a skeletal state. They were told she hadn't been outside in years, wasn't in school, and wasn't getting any kind of medical treatment, even though her grandmother said she had an eating disorder and was unable to function for days.
We see a lot of things and we deal with a lot of things, but sometimes things are pretty rough.
Julie Miller, Kennedi's mom, was the first to be arrested. Days later, Kennedi's grandparents, Donna and Jerry Stone, who the teen girl also lived with, were also arrested. At the time, they were only charged with child neglect causing death, but were later indicted for Kennedi's murder. Shortly after her death, reporters and child advocates began asking the central question.
Why would a 14-year-old girl starve to death? That is something that takes so long and is such a horrible way to die. How did no one intervene?
The Department of Human Services, which houses Child Protective Services, maintained in the beginning that they could not comment on prior involvement in Kennedi's life because of issues with confidentiality. Justice, who was governor at the time, sent some mixed messages about this.
CPS folks, from what I understand, had no idea about this child. Attorneys that are with DHHR, and they screw it up.
We did learn, however, through a Freedom of Information Act request that state troopers did visit Kyneddi about a year before she died, working a tip from a family friend who hadn't seen her. And we learned from their GPS coordinates and radio traffic that they did visit the Boone County DHHR office after to make what they called a referral.
Make a CPS referral on it also, that way they can follow up on it.
All of this information coming out led to this press conference called by the state with all agencies in the room to address it once and for all. It was revealed that the troopers who visited Kyneddi in 2023 had no concerns for her safety or well-being, but had a mental health concern as she expressed her fear of COVID and people, which seemed unusual. The troopers took it on to the DHHR office, but had more of what was described as an informal chat about it instead of making an official referral because it did not rise to the level of abuse and neglect.
Yeah, they could have said, here's an 800 number, you call it, but that 800 number is for abuse and neglect referrals. This was not one.
The other component was the homeschooling one. Kyneddi was pulled from school in 2020 over COVID concerns, but never turned in the required homeschooling assessment in 8th grade. Boone County schools could have pursued a truancy order against the family over that, but school officials explained why that isn't always feasible.
When they do pursue and they do push, there's national advocacy groups and others that threaten lawsuits, and then they end up in a different type of court situation because they're asking people to follow the law.
While the criminal case with her mom and grandparents continues to play out, legislation has been on the move to address some of the shortcomings from this case. Lawmakers continue to push for homeschool and CPS reform. A bill passed this session that will create a critical incident review team made up of law enforcement, social services, and legislators that would allow them to review child fatalities in the system and shape policy. Though Kennedi's life was cut short and came to a tragic end, her impact lives on, and the fight for kids like her continues.
We had a situation in Boone County that really devastated our communities, and I think this would help resolve future cases like that.